Let me tell you a story. It's the summer of 2019. And little old me, well, I'm just living. I open up the game store. What do I see? Obsidian have released a new game, The Outer Worlds. I do a little research, have a look at a couple of reviews. I decide it looks very much my cup of tea. I invest £50 of the British variety and wait for it to install. I hibernate as entire civilizations are built and destroyed while it fucking copies. But then I finally got to play it. And you could call it Yorkshire tea, because it very much was my cup of tea. Oh, that is so bad. I poured every spare hour I had into the colony of Halcyon, engrossed by the world, engaged by the gameplay, and enthralled by the story. I had that feeling that only gamers understand. And I don't mean loneliness, but that sense of wanderlust, where you're exploring a new world for the first time, the limitless possibilities, the endless experiences you are yet to have, but are so excited for. I didn't want it to end, but of course, like all things, it did. There is a very common saying that encapsulates how I felt when I finished that first playthrough: always leave them wanting more. And so I jumped straight back in, created a new character and landed in Edgewater all over again. And to my surprise and disappointment, I didn't want more. Having been virtually obsessed with it the first time round, I didn't even make it off Terra 2 the second time. The magic was gone. So, was it ever really there to begin with?
Should've read the fine print, my friend. Should've read the fine print. You should've read the fine print, my friend. Should've read the fine print.
As you can probably tell from its length, this isn't going to be my usual style of video. That longer video essay style is something I want to return to for my next project, but I'm currently not sure what to make it on. These are the options I currently have in mind, so comment down below if you'd like to see one of these, or just any game really that you'd like me to talk about, because fuck knows I need it. Something that you notice immediately when replaying is that this game flatters to deceive. In its opening chapter, all you have to do to notice this is look up. Look up and you'll see a tower, which might not seem that exciting, but Edgewater is a really bland environment. The factions and people are interesting, but the environment just isn't. So on a second playthrough, when you aren't being whipped along by the humour and the cutscenes and the intrigue of a shiny new game, that tower seems pretty interesting. You're probably going to try and find out what it is, who's there, if anybody is, and if there's anything to do. And you'll realise you're allowed about as close to that tower as I am to schools. Or just a misunderstanding. Yeah. The tower is there to be seen, to be looked at, but not interacted with, not to be examined too closely. Like a painting in a museum, held in a glass box and fenced off by one of those obnoxiously high quality ropes. And I've taken this metaphor a little too far and should stop. It's easy to ignore when you are engrossed by the story the first time round, but impossible to forget once you notice it. It makes you feel like a viewer, not a player. And this feeling is repeated all over Halcyon. It's even the case when fast travelling between planets, something you do all the time. You can see a number of locations exist, but you're not allowed to visit them. Instead restricted to zipping back and forth between Monarch, Terra 2, Skrilla and the Groundbreaker, with special locations only becoming available for certain missions. And it's indicative of a much larger problem: a lack of depth. The Outer Worlds draws you in, makes you so keen to find more and delve beneath the surface. But there isn't anything there. There's nothing to find. It's an almost paradoxical flaw when one of the key hurdles of any sci-fi media is to draw its audience into the world, into this created universe, and make them want to spend time there and find out more. When writing this script, I kept going to describe the flaw as fatal, but it doesn't feel right, because for reasons I get into later, it's not fatal. But first, for the structure of the video, I want to talk about a personal annoyance surrounding this game. When The Outer Worlds was released, it was compared religiously to a previous Obsidian release, one which many consider a classic, Fallout New Vegas. Now, I like The Outer Worlds, but to suggest that these are comparable, or as many people suggested at the time, equitable in their quality, it's just wrong. It's just like if you believe that, I don't respect you as a human being. For one very simple reason, the quests. If you want to understand what makes New Vegas' quest design so special, I suggest watching H-Bomber Guy's video on it, because I'd prefer not to just rehash his points but badly here. So what about the quests you find in Halcyon? Well, the large majority of the Outer Worlds quests are simple fetch quests, where the player is handheld through one of two very simple ways of completing it. If you decide to side with the board, Adjutant Sophia Akonde contracts you to assassinate a cartographer and retrieve her documents. You are also warned that other contractors have been employed to kill her and haven't returned. It's a nice setup of what should be a fun mission. You go to her office, she's not there but her files are, you read a message on her computer telling you her exact location, you go there and kill— oh no, what an amazing and unexpected twist. The receptionist was the contracted killer. Oh my days, I'm so shocked. So the mission boils down to whether you kill her or he does. There's no weight to this decision. Sophia will be happy either way, and there's no moral decision to be made here. This quest isn't bad, but it's not good either. It's fine, it's something to do, and every game needs quests like these. But in the Outer Worlds, almost every quest is like this. The one real exception to this is Comes Now the Power, which is a quest that, when you speak to anybody who played this game, even if they didn't like it, points to this quest as a standout section. The player needs a power regulator to get the unreliable flying again. To get one, the player must take one from either the company town of Edgewater or a small group of deserters. The company town is led by a man named Reed, who, as Pavati says,
"To Mr. Thompson, a person's a gear. It does its job quiet-like. If it squeaks or stutters, it gets replaced."
The deserters are led by a woman named Adelaide, who refuses to even speak to Reed after the death of her son. When he fell sick, Reed wouldn't give Adelaide the medicine needed to save him. To get your regulator, you must decide which of these gives the people of Edgewater the best chance of survival. And Edgewater is dying. The citizens are getting sick. They have no medicine with which to treat them. Reed promises that if Edgewater can meet their productivity quotas, for which they need the deserters to return, then the board will send the medicine they need. So you have to decide. You could just take Eva and leave if the only thing you care about really is just leaving. But if you care about what happens to Edgewater and its people, then it's a really tough choice, with no answer that everybody can agree is the right one. Even if you install Adelaide as the leader of Edgewater, depose of Reed by convincing him to go, or she is incredibly isolationist to the town's detriment and starts every citizen on a diet of human meat. Lovely stuff. It's a frustrating quest in the sense that it shows the potential for storytelling this game holds, but never fulfills. The main questline offers the player a really terrible choice to support Phineas or the board, and any player who isn't doing a deliberately evil playthrough will always side with Phineas. The colony is running out of resources and food. Earth is gone, and there is no more help coming. The board solution is to put thousands of people from the poorest planets into stasis on the Hope, so that the wealthy on Byzantium can continue living a life of comfort. It's entirely unethical, and nobody is going to choose that over working with Phineas to take down the board to start a new era for Halcyon. It is a massively important decision, but such a boring one, because the board are just the bad guys you can join if you want.
Good afternoon. I'm Chairman Rockwell, and I'm here to address a serious issue facing us. As you all know, our colony has been successful beyond our wildest dreams. Unfortunately, we've recently discovered that our food supply will not be able to sustain Halcyon's population in the long term. Everyone will die. Everyone will slowly stop living from malnutrition. But we're doing it together, and that's what matters. I fucking swear, if someone doesn't give me something to read that will placate the masses soon, all of you will find yourselves violently unemployed. But I can assure you there's nothing to fear. We've got a solution. It's called the Lifetime Employment Program. We will freeze most of the colony to preserve resources, while the best and brightest of Byzantium continue living in prosperity. Look, you idiots! How many times do I have to tell you we can't say shit like that? Fire whoever wrote this! While Halcyon's brightest minds solve the problem of our nutritional shortage, the rest of the colony will be placed in suspended animation. Individuals will be revived on a rotating basis, so that every Halcyonite can be part of the important work of saving our colony. By testing paperweights. Sorry, couldn't resist. Let's go again. And someday, in the not-too-distant future when we've solved this crisis, we'll all be back together again working for the good of Halcyon. Until then, the board shall provide for the deserving just as it always has. So, obey your supervisors, take your vitamins, follow your corporate-mandated grooming rituals, and rest assured with the board on your side, there is nothing to worry about.
What disappoints me most, though, is that the world is waiting for you to set it in motion. And I understand to some extent that's part of the plot, but it goes further than that. The world doesn't live and breathe. Every town and settlement has the same pattern of NPCs. A couple sat on a landing, one leant against a wall, and two stood still in the middle of the street, totally silent, until you walk right by them, where they start having a poorly scripted exposition dump. It feels so mechanical. There's no energy or life to it. The world is well populated, and yet it feels so empty.
Zero G Brew, your favorite flavor. So work till you bleed. Ennobled by labor, then purchase relief from your local retailer.
If you'd rather drop dead, that's fine, but you know the
Of course, to record footage for this video, I needed to dive back into Halcyon. And to be honest, I was not looking forward to it. My expectations had been lowered. All I could remember was this feeling that the facade had been broken, that the curtain had come down, and the magic was gone. I thought that now it had gone, it couldn't be recaptured. Oh, how wrong I was. One of the reasons there's been such a long time between videos, sorry, by the way, if anybody cares, along with jobs, health scares, corrupted video files, is that this game sucked me back in. Solid mechanics, a light-hearted and funny script that is performed brilliantly. This game has a number of flaws, and to be honest is pretty disappointing compared to some of Obsidian's previous releases. It doesn't have depth or ambition, but when taken on its own merits, and this is the key point of the video I suppose, is that if you take it as an action game rather than an RPG, if you let it hold your hand rather than looking for a game that isn't there, it can be a really good time.
should've read the fine print.
And here, and initial here. Welcome to the family.